Let's bring in Kurt Warner from the NFL Network. Let me start with Junior Seau. And when you heard the news, what's the first thing you thought of?
I think crushed like everyone else. And I think the thing that always goes through my mind as a former player is understanding what happens when guys get out of the game. And we hear all the time about divorce and things that happen, and then obviously we've heard more recently about the idea of depression from NFL players. And so, those two things sadden for him and his family, and knowing the kind of person he is, and then thinking about, did it have something to do with his playing days and what happens to a lot of players once they leave the game.
You talked to Brenda about this, what you went through, maybe hits, what happens when you're, 60?
Seldom, but, it does come up. And I think, we've talked a lot about the divorce rate when players get out of the game and the transition it is from, being in the spotlight and having people, stroking your ego and all of those things, and then coming to more of a normal life and being able to handle that. We've talked about that a lot. And I think there's a lot of fear with her about the future and what that's going to look like. And when you hear about stories like this, I think there's a lot of fear there. Less talk, but I think more fear on her end of, nobody knows the ramifications of playing this game as long as we did and taking those hits, and what is that going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or even 20 years from now.
You heard the Saints discipline with the players themselves. What'd you think? Appropriate?
For me, it's so hard to say. I think we can all speculate on the outside, appropriate or inappropriate, too long, not long enough. But I don't know if any of us really know the facts and what the commissioner made these decisions based on. I have to assume suspending a coach for a year and a player for the year, that he's got some pretty strong facts and some reasons for doing it. And from that standpoint, not my decision, and I don't know enough. But I was definitely surprised with Coach Payton for a year, and then obviously for a player to be suspended for a year. Unprecedented stuff. I'm interested to find out more of the details and what went into making this decision. But definitely surprised. I didn't expect a player to be suspended for 16 games.
If you're singled out by the Saints prior to the playoff game, and it's $10,000 in Vilma's saying, reportedly, to whoever takes out Kurt Warner. I guess the first thing I thought was, did the commissioner talk to you during this investigation? The league talked to you during this investigation? No
one talked to me in regards to this or this particular game at all.
Did you feel that was there anything different about that game in their style towards you?
Ironically enough, no. And I've played in a lot of games, and I've played in a lot of games where I felt like there were teams that, were going a little beyond the whistle, or they were going a little bit higher or lower than normal. Like they were really trying to take me out. When I went back and, thought about that game, especially in light of the situation, trying to think about the big hit that I took. And, I don't ever remember thinking in that game at all that it was anything more than a tough playoff game, and a game that, I've played against Coach Williams hundreds of times, and his teams are always physical. They always blitz and come after you. It's a game where you expect to get hit. But I don't remember anything that I would say was beyond the whistle or, trying to hurt me. Even the big hit I thought was a fully legal hit. Just one of those situations where a bigger guy gets a smaller guy that wasn't ready, and, I took the brunt of it.
Who went after you during your career that you thought it was above and beyond the call of duty?
There was actually a game, it might have even been the week earlier against the Packers, where I really felt like I was getting a lot of hits to the head in that game. That's just one game that I remember. And again, it might have just been my thought process, but I felt like, there was a lot of shots going towards my head in that game. And that's just one that I recall. I can't tell you specific games. I just remember, I would be in the middle of games or coming out of games, go, man, it really felt like, they were trying to knock me out.
Yeah, but quarterbacks know this. And that's why I brought up when Favre says something to Darren Sharper during a game. And here's Favre as tough as anybody who's ever played that position, and didn't complain about hits. So then there's something up there for Favre. Would that be alarming if you heard Favre say something like that to a defensive player during the game, saying, "Sharp, what are you trying to do?"
It wouldn't be alarming because, again, I think that happens all the time.
But for Favre to say something, because Favre he wasn't a complainer when he'd get hit.
Right. Yeah, and again, I don't think this happens every week. But like I said, I went through games where, I felt like that was going on. I would say things like that. And I think Favre the same way, is that in a normal situation, you would never say anything. But when you really felt like a team was pushing that envelope. And I remember watching that game the week after our game with Favre. And, one play I remember is when he handed the ball off and he booted out, just carrying out a naked. And, 4 or 5 steps after he handed the ball off, I remember someone taking a shot at him and, hitting him really hard. And I remember just thinking in that situation, I'm like, man, that was pushing the envelope. And I don't think they threw a penalty or anything.
Yeah.
But I do remember that game, watching it, going, man, they are hitting him and going after him in every way, shape, and form. And obviously those things take on a little different meaning when you understand some of the circumstances behind it.
Do you ever have financial incentives for the offense during games?
Yeah, I think that stuff goes on all the time.
What do you mean?
Within play? Well, I just think there's tackle inside the 20. Guys get on those things, and I honestly believe, and I can't tell you that I heard it specifically in my locker room, but I don't think there's any question around the league that there would be a bunch of defensive linemen that would say, hey, knock Kurt out and I'm buying dinner. I think that stuff goes on all the time. I think that's part of our game. And when you look at the quarterback position, it's been one of those things that everybody's always felt. If a quarterback knocked out of the game, it gives your team a better chance to win.
But did you ever have financial incentives for your offense that score touchdowns and catches and points or anything? Did guys put up money for the offense to do damage against the defense?
Again, like I said, I believe it goes on in situations like that. I don't know if it's always in front of the team and it's, hey, this is what we're going to do and in the locker room, but that, different guys do that on the side. They do things like that to give out payments. Again, I think those situations are for, someone to accomplish something, not to knock somebody out of the game, but I definitely think that stuff goes on.
If this happens around the league, though, Kurt, why the Saints? What happened here that the Saints got exposed and nobody else?
I don't know, but I think the difference is that when you're talking about knocking someone out and you're putting them out of the game and you get paid for it. Like I said, I can't say it hasn't happened in the locker room between guys, but to be able to make that prevalent and to get up, if this is what happened, if they get up and say, hey, I'm paying $10,000 if you hurt this guy, if you take this guy out of the game, to me that crosses the line from, hey, if you make a good tackle inside the 20 or if you catch a touchdown pass, those things are completely different because they're the course of the game, and it's a guy making a good play. It's not trying to take someone's livelihood and injure someone. And so that to me is where it crossed the line. And again, I'm not going to be the one to say nobody else has ever done this. I'm not going to say that it doesn't go on a lot, because I believe whether the guys are paid or not, that they've for years gone after guys or gone after quarterbacks trying to knock them out of the game to change the complexion of a game.
You have sons?
I do.
The conversation of them playing football?
Scares me. They both have the dream, like Dad, to play in the NFL, and that's their goal. And, when you hear things like the bounty, when you know certain things having played the game, and then obviously when you understand the size, the speed, the violence of the game, and then you couple that with situations like Junior Seau, and, was that a ramification of, all the years playing and things that go with that. And so it scares me as a dad I just wonder. I wonder what the league's going to be like. I love the fact that the commissioner's doing a lot of things to try to clean up the game from that standpoint and bring player safety, which helps in my mind a lot. But it's a scary thing for me.
If you had to make the choice, would you prefer that your kids did not play?
Yes, I would. Can't make that choice for them. They want to, but yeah, there's no question in my mind.
Good to visit with you. Tell your wife I said hello. Thank you, Kurt.
Will do. Thanks,
All right, Kurt Warner, NFL Network.